If you learned English as a second language, what was the most frustrating part to learn? Run, ran, run, and all their friends. It was frustrating to learn because we had to stand up every time we got one wrong, and Mrs. O'Toole would only let us sit down if we got the next one right. It's frustrating now because we spent literally 1 year learning. Basically just that, and then you lot don't know it yourself. And of course, I don't blame those who might not have had the best opportunities, but I'd really like to go back and ask Mrs. O'Toole why. Why? My university-educated mother tongue English colleagues have no clue. I could have sat down. Not really frustrating. Just making no sense to me, double negation. And that we don't need any education. While in my first language, which is French. The fact that there is two negations do not and no means that we do need education. They kinda cancel each other. Like if I don't need no education and not simply education, then it means that I don't need to not have an education. Therefore I need an education. Let me know if I'm not being clear. It depends on the level and the person's mother tongue. I teach ESL to French speakers. At the lowest level, they have a hard time just knowing when to use the present progressive versus the simple present I work every day versus I am working at the moment. The progressive as a tense doesn't exist in French, so it takes a very long time for them to eventually not say things like I work at the moment. For me, the hardest part was that the official English that you learn in school or from books will not teach you to properly communicate in real world. If you try to speak as books were telling you, you'll look like a pretentious moron, and phrases people tell you are being completely cryptic. Spoken English and written English are almost two separate languages. Definitely the S on the verbs. It gets so confusing at times. Usually it is obvious, but sometimes it gets really confusing, and I'll have to look for extra resource to find out if that's gonna be with S or not. The S that I'm talking about, for example, gets, understand, understands, etc. I'm a native English speaker who teaches English. Here's what my students hate. Our vowels have a range of sounds. We've got some letter combos that are just shitty. Shin makes shan. Y. Itk. O is notoriously difficult. Expression sayings. There are a lot of similarities between English and Dutch, even in our expressions, but some are completely different. So if you translate a wrong one has happened in both directions, you sound like an idiot. Defiantly irregular verbs. They were the only that I had to intensely study and try to memorize. The rest came by itself. Not so much through school, but different mediums such as music, video games, movies, and eventually books. Me of when I taught a bunch of Japanese students how to properly use the phrase get the fuck outta here, because I say it all the time, and they thought I legitimately wanted somebody to leave law. Tenses can still be challenging. The past and present tense for read is the same, but the way it was pronounced was completely different. It's the only word I can think of that was a special case. Native English speaker. But I don't know how you all learn the variants of pronunciation, like bow and bow, read and read, the and through and couch. Same letters, different sounds. Pronunciation by far. There are many words that you have to straight up just memorize how they are pronounced, because the written word gives you no indication it has to be pronounced that way, since the culture is different. The F word getting used in almost any sentence is very weird. Is it bad? Is it good? Is it frustrating? Is it exciting? I don't know until I see their reactions. As a native English speaker, I feel bad for anyone trying to learn the language. A Germanic language with French grammar rules, borrow words, tons of weird stuff. Y'all are troopers. Which direction left and right is? I know directions just fine in my mother language, but for some reason I can never remember it in English. Still to this day I'm not sure. I still hate words with two X double letters. Ironically, I can spell Mississippi really well, but I need to Google accommodation or occur every now and then. Pronunciation. I still have an accent. They can tell I speak proper English and use big words, but it is still clear English is my second language. Past tenses and pronunciation pick a freaking lane. Point 3D. Native Dutch. Some pronunciations. But English as a language is easy compared to Dutch with all these weird things you need to remember. Tough. Tuft though, thought, just GHTTH sounds. They don't exist in the French language. Like saying the number 3 is a bitch. Lol, how is spelling not an option? If I were learning English as an adult, I would assume someone was playing a cruel joke on me. Past participle, you have to memorize the conjugations and they don't make much sense. The rules always have exceptions. That people don't mean what they say. And if they invite you over to their house, you're not supposed to go or something. It's my first language and I have trouble with cough, rough, true. O is pronounced to many different ways. Modal verbs, I guess. Turn in, turn off, turn out, turn into, turn on all mean different things. Grammar. I speak it as a first language, but still don't pay attention to tenses and stuff lol. Spelling, as well as verb conjugation. I remember I hated having to memorize irregular verbs. Articles, I still don't understand them. We don't have anything like that in Russian. Silent letters, if they're not making a sound, why would you leave them in there? Spelling, irregular verbs, plurals, past participles, passive form, and conditionals. English versus American words. Chips, fries, apartment, flat, windshield, windscreen. Where to put the accent in the word, like development and not development. Spelling and pronunciation have nothing to do with each other. Theoretical grammar. We don't usually use it while speaking. The R pronunciation doesn't come naturally in any way.